Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of our Thrive, How Personal Well-Being Fuels Your Impact. It's been a great couple of months for me. I know that we've made an impact on people's lives. I heard direct feedback. I've heard it with my own ears. I think the things that Ali is going to talk about and that Tavi and Chris and myself have talked about, we all have journeys, right? And although perhaps our methodologies are different, I think all these strategies have helped make our journeys better and our lives more productive and certainly more satisfying. I think it was Sean Anker, and I might be wrong about that, but I believe it was Sean Anker who talked about that happiness is a prelude to success. And so many people think when I close the deal, when I get the new job, when I perhaps get engaged, I'll be happy. But really, happiness is what leads to those things. So, big thank you to Tavi, who talked about intent last month, Chris, who talked about the stories we tell ourselves, me talking about looking at the front mirror instead of spending your time looking at the rear view mirror. And then next month, I believe next month, and yes, end of October, we're going to have Mike wrap us up. He has the Z in his last name. So for this time, I figured he'd go last there, go back to normal. So again, thank you to everybody. Big thank you to Ali, who many of you may notice our last names are the same. So Ali's really a catalyst for all this happening. Ali invited me to talk to her fifth grade class, and I talked to all the fifth graders, and then I talked to the teachers, and I saw people were interested in this, and people got it, and even the little kids who aren't so little, and some of them are taller than Ali, in fact, but even the little kids, they totally got that happiness is important, and you can take action to increase your happiness. So, Ali, thank you for really being the catalyst for this. And I know that doing these are difficult, right? It's hard to public speak, and then to public speak about yourself is even more difficult. So, thank you for taking that journey, and for everybody, I want to welcome Ali to our presentation today. So, Ali, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yanni, if you want to pull up the presentation, I will be happy to begin. All right, so today I am going to be talking about taking control of your life, specifically in the aspects of reducing negative thinking and living in the present. I would like to thank my dad, David, as well as Tavi, Chris, and Mike for going on this journey all together. Hopefully many of you have joined us for Tavi, Chris, and David's presentations, and if not, November 7th, I believe, is Mike's, so he will be sharing his journey and his tips and tricks to a happier life. So we hope to see you then. A little bit about me. I am a public education teacher. I have been teaching for 7 years. I started my teaching career in general education, and for the past 4 years, I have been teaching special education. I am a big believer on focusing on not only the curriculum and academic side, but also the well-being and happiness of my students. I believe it fosters motivation and confidence, which in turn makes them happier and more successful. I am also a big pusher of positivity throughout my colleagues. I believe happier teachers, happier school, and then it trickles down to the students. So that is a little bit about me. So I thought I would start off with this quote that my dad shared with me that I believe was shared from Phil. So thank you, Phil Whitman, for passing along this quote. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And I think this can really apply to what we will be talking about today, because all the tips and tricks that I'm going to share would have been great if you started implementing them years ago, months ago, whatever it is. However, realistically, for whatever reason, you haven't. So why not start now? There's no better time than now if you didn't already. So let's get to it. This is a little bit of my story, which has led me here. So I had a wonderful childhood. I was always playing. Unfortunately, I only had boy neighbors, but we were always outside, always playing. I have great memories of elementary school, friends, family, everything. And then ninth grade, I was re-diagnosed with epilepsy, and that really took a toll on me, which I did not realize at the time. I was in and out of the hospital. I had to be homeschooled my freshman year, and I lost a lot of friends. And without really realizing it, I became extremely, extremely isolated and kind of not myself. So, as a result of these struggles, I would spiral. I would get in my head. I remember when I was younger, if I thought about having a seizure, I would have to find wood and knock on wood 3 times, because in my head, if I didn't do that, that meant I would cause a seizure to myself. If I had a headache, that meant the EEG was read wrong. The MRI wasn't right. There was something massive going on. If I didn't get enough sleep, boom, seizure. There was no realistic reason why I was doing that. I was just living in this constant fear, and I was never able to live in the moment because I was always worrying about, well, what if I stay up late tonight? That means tomorrow I might have a seizure. Um, I would always assume the grass was always greener, and this was something that really took me a long time. I would see everybody else, oh, they're out partying, they're having this great life, and I would always just compare myself. I'm not doing that, so that must mean there's something wrong with me. So in turn, I became negative. My dad always says, if everyone around you says you're depressed, you might be, but it took a toll, and the medicine was taking a toll. So then again, in college, I was back in and out of the hospital. So a big thank you to my father, as well as my mom and dad, for always being supportive, but really pushing me to find the good. So, which leads me to today, because now I am a much happier individual. So the strategies that I will be sharing with you today are scientifically proven to work, and they have also personally worked for me. The reason I say scientific is because for me, that was really a catalyst. If you just tell me, oh, yeah, this might work, maybe I'll try it, maybe I won't. But the fact that there's science behind it and there's data to prove that these work led me to think, all right, well, why not try? If it's working for everyone else, if there's all these statistics, why not try? So that's kind of what was the catalyst for me. All right, let's get going. So before I dig deeper into living in the present and reducing the time you spend thinking negatively, I wanted to share some tips on just getting yourself out of the negative space overall. So the first thing is your mindset. You need to go into everything and anything with a positive mindset and assume that the best will happen. Unfortunately, our brains want us and are wired to think the worst. This results in us worrying and getting worked up for no reason. Could I have caused a seizure if I didn't knock on wood 3 times? Absolutely not. But in my head, could I? Absolutely. So you need to go into things assuming the best will happen. In fact, in a Cornell University study, it found that 85% of things that people worry about do not happen or a positive outcome happens. 85%. If somebody said, I can guarantee you 85% that something good would happen, I'm sure you would take those odds. So think about that the next time you're worrying. Oh no, is my son going to get to practice on time? Am I going to get laid off? Try and really disconnect, because 85% of the time that will not happen or something positive will. Also think about your surroundings. What are you consuming? I know for myself, I love listening to murder and crime podcasts. However, totally consuming myself with that is not the most uplifting thing. So one small change I've made is, instead of listening to a murder podcast on the way to work and on the way back from work, I now listen to a mindset podcast on the way. Again, I'm still getting what I like, but now I'm surrounding myself with a little bit more positivity. Another thing I've done is on social media. It's normal. We compare ourselves. We see the highlight reels. We see everybody's perfect life. So while I do follow whoever I want to follow on social media, I've started following more positive accounts, good movement accounts where they share good things happening around the world. And I've also started following accounts that just post positive quotes, because there I am. I'm still getting some things that probably aren't the best for me, but at least I'm consuming other positive things that are beneficial to me and can uplift me. Journaling. This is a quick thing that is really, really impactful. Again, our brains are wired to think negatively. You have to take time to make your brain think positively. So in the morning, instead of just getting up, going to work, take 5 minutes, not even, and write 3 things you're grateful for. Write 3 things you're looking forward to, 3 things you're appreciative of, and end your night on the same way. Again, since our brains are wired to think like that, if somebody says, "How was your day?" you're not going to think, "Oh, it was great." You're probably going to think of the one thing your boss did to piss you off, or the one thing your child did to really grind your gears. So at the end of the day, think about your full day. What 3 things were great? What are you thankful for? Right? It could be something small, like your child brought home a craft for you. It doesn't have to be life-changing. Look for those small things because they are there. And the last thing is your free time. What are you doing in your free time? I love reality TV. Sitting on the couch for hours and consuming reality TV is not the best thing. Can I still do it? And do I still do it? Yes. But I also make sure I get outdoors and I exercise. Exercising and being outdoors can improve focus. You'll have less stress, better sleep, and overall have a huge positive impact on your mental health. Another thing, think about, who are you hanging with? Are those people going to uplift you and be a positive to your life, or are they going to bring you down? You are the closest to the 5 people you surround yourself most with. If those 5 people aren't people you would say, "I would love to be that person," then maybe really think about, do I need to um, push myself aside a little bit? Can I not be as close to that person? Make sure you are surrounding yourself with the best people who will bring out the best in you. So now, before we get to how to live in the present, why we can't live in the present. And again, I will speak about why our brains are wired to think negatively, and also something called the default state. So our brains are meant to live in the default state without us purposely engaging in the present state. And because of that, we spend a half of our time to a third of our to 2/3 of our time living in this default state. When we are in this default state, our brains think about past events and imagine scenarios. And because of how we're wired, the past events we're thinking of typically aren't going to be your son's first birthday or your best day at work. They're going to think of negative times that have occurred in your life. Okay? So you need to make a commitment to get out of that default state and purposely engage in the present. I will be sharing some ways to do that next. All right, so the first one is a stop sign. So this is going to seem silly, but all you need to do when you're trying to be present and there's a negative thought that comes in your mind is picture a stop sign. That will signal your brain, I am stopping this negative thought and I am going to begin thinking a positive thought. Another thing you can do that's similar to the stop sign is say out loud your name, stop. So if I'm having a negative thought, all I need to do is say, "Allie, stop." It signals your brain to stop the thought it's having and then can focus on something positive. Another thing is 5 minutes. Things go wrong. Yeah, you're not going to have a perfect life. I'm sorry. But when things do go wrong, give yourself 5 minutes to feel how you want to feel. You're entitled to all of those emotions. But then after those 5 minutes, get yourself together and do not let it affect your day. Don't let one thing that happened in the morning ruin your whole day. You have a rushed morning and your son misses the bus and you have to drop him off, but you also have an important presentation at work that day. If you don't give yourself those 5 minutes, understand this sucks, and then move on, that's all you're going to be thinking about. And that is going to impact your presentation, whether you think it's going to or not. Another one, and a big one, is be a friend. And I don't mean be a friend to somebody else. I'm talking about being a friend to you. You are the most important person, but until you treat yourself that way, not a lot is going to change. So when you mess up and when you think, "I can't believe I did this, I'm such an idiot, how could I?" Stop and say, "What would my friend say?" So if you called your friend and said, "Oh, I was late on this work call, my boss is mad, I can't believe it," your friend's not going to say, "You're such an idiot, how could you do that, you're going to get fired." Your friend's probably going to say, listen, you have a lot going on. It's busy. Maybe make an alarm. Maybe do something different. They're not going to speak negatively to you and tell you all of these awful things. Okay? You need to talk to yourself the way you would talk to your friends, your family members, your children. Stop being hard on yourself. All right, the next one is zooming out. So when something negative does happen, you need to zoom out from the situation and view it from a third person. Taking yourself out of the situation makes it less personal. So it's not you in the situation, you're just viewing a situation that happened. When we do this, it actually shortens the amount of time that we spend in either a negative, frustrated, or mad mood. So zooming out and just viewing the situation as it occurred, not as I'm in the situation, just what happened. Another thing you can do to be in the present is make a top 3 every day. This is something that I have done for a long time now. Instead of making a to-do list, because a to-do list is usually 10 or 15 things that you might cross one off or two, make a top 3. That way, when you're in the middle of an important meeting, your brain isn't thinking, oh my God, I have to do A, B, C, D, E, F. You know, no, I crossed off my top 3. I can focus on this and work on this now. Another thing is hijack the convo. When you are talking to somebody who is negative, they are going to continue talking negatively. You need to say, okay, stop, and ask them something positive. So if they're rambling on about how miserable their day was and how terrible their boss is, say, okay, you know what? Let's stop talking about your boss. Tell me something good about one of your coworkers. However, if you know that somebody you're dealing with is always a negative person, don't give them that opportunity to start a negative conversation. So if Joe is the most negative person you know, but you know that you have to deal with Joe, instead of saying, hey, Joe, how's it going today? When you know his answer is going to be, it's terrible. Can you believe blah, blah, blah? Say, hey, Joe, nice to see you. Tell me 2 good things that are happening at work or 2 good things that have happened recently. That way you're starting the conversation on a positive note and he won't suck you into the negativity. All right, so for our challenge today, I would like you to come up with a time with an event within the next week and that you are going to commit to being fully present. I would like you to share that event and then think of one strategy you would like to use. I'm giving you a week because for some people there may be an exciting event within a week, there may be a big meeting, but there also may not be. And that's okay because life isn't about big events. Life is about the small things. So that is what I would like you to do. And then we will meet back here.
I think we're going to break into some small groups at this point. Is that correct, Al?
Yeah.
Okay. And, at the small groups, think about how you can be present and think about how you can stop that negative thoughts, right? So talk about what you do, talk about does that impact you? So we'll go into small groups for about 10 or 12 minutes or so. Introduce yourselves as well. There's a lot of great people on this call. And Yanni, if you would, I always think of Star Trek where people are here and then they're gone, like the TV show when I watched when I was young during this. Welcome back, everybody. We'll give people a moment or two to pop back in here.
All right. So is there anyone that would like to share either the event coming up or just a strategy that they will be implementing shortly after this?
Hi, Allie.
Hi.
I'm Nancy D'Amato. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Excellent job. And I really feel that this is an important conversation to have, especially in public accounting for sure. And in our group, we talked a lot about creating some time for personal time every day, whether it was for exercise, meditation, listening to really good music, just taking time away from work. And we discussed that we always feel like we come back more refreshed, more creative. Clients benefit as well. But whether we're spending that time at the beginning of the day, end of the day, also one of us was talking about food selections, just really making sure that we're making mindful choices. So not as much as an event, but just really working the concepts and principles into our work and lifestyle. So thank you. Yeah, great pointers. I really appreciate you sharing so much. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad to hear. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you, everybody. Well, Allie, why don't you continue? Yanni, why don't you bring the deck back up? And a couple more points.
All right. So I thought a good way to end would be with this quote that I just heard. And it says, "Life doesn't get easier, our skills get better." So unfortunately, after you leave this, I cannot give you a magic wand and say you're all going to have a perfect life. But hopefully through this event, as well as some others in the past and others I will have coming up, you will have a toolbox to help you get through the day-to-day things that do happen. So I just thought this was a great way to wrap up for you to think about. Life's going to happen. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but it's really in our control and how we deal with it. And now that we have more tools, how we can make our life better, because it's not going to be perfect, but we can do what we can do, and we can focus on the good. And when things get thrown our way, get through them instead of harping on them.
Amen.
And then the last thing is I just have two recommendations. The Mindset Mentor is a podcast the podcast I listen to in the morning. What I love about it is it is usually between like 8 and 15-minute episodes. So it's not like an hour long. So I have a 45-minute commute to work. So sometimes I'll listen to multiple, but sometimes I'll listen to one and it'll still start my day off on a great note. And then this book, Chatter by Ethan Kross, was a great way to really understand more of that science behind why we think the way we do. So I thought that was something else that I would recommend. And then I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Not next month, November 7th, we will have Mike Zaremski speaking, and he will be sharing his journey as well as some new strategies that you can add to your toolbox.
Can we show Allie some appreciation? Can we give her all some thumbs up and thank yous for her? And I certainly appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who has taken the time to come here today. Appreciate to Phil and to the sales support team to really focus some time and effort into this. You know, Allie talked about surrounding yourself with the best people, and I really think that is a lot of the C-suite community and the Whitman transition community. It's about having great people, and you can create magic. And, you know, I just want, right before this meeting, I was meeting with a candidate who was thinking about joining C-suite. And he looked at the clock and he said, "Hey, I want to be respectful of your time. And before we wrap up, I saw your Thrive events up on the website as I was doing my research. And an organization that cares about people's personal well-being, I am interested in hearing more about that type of organization. And we need more of those things. So I think the world needs more of this. And I'm very excited that we're able to do it and to make an impact. So thank you, everybody, and have a beautiful day. Take action.
And
Action is what changes the world.
Thank you, C-Suite, for letting me speak, as well as Yanni, Lorraine, and anybody else who I might be missing, because thank you for dealing with all of my emails. And Phil and my dad for letting me speak, and everyone for attending.